Welcome, everyone, to the Inclusion Podcast. I'm Dr. Julie Costin.
And I'm Dr. Christy Preddy-Franzak. We're so glad you're here as we explore all things inclusion.
So whether you're a school leader, an educator, a parent, or simply passionate about inclusion, this podcast is for you.
In each episode, we go beyond the usual conversations, diving into what truly makes inclusive education work.
Together, let's make a difference, one conversation at a time. Here we go. I feel like this one needs a drum roll, and it's welcome to episode 52. So if you are near a hard service, go ahead and make a drum roll with your hands, because today is about our favorite co-teaching strategy called One Teach, One Make Multisensory. Da, 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 da.
Oh, and a trumpet.
Trumpet too. Yeah, feel free if you're anywhere, just make a mouth trumpet sound. Just to get yourself actually ready for
get
this.
ready. Get adequately prepared for the amazingness of this episode. Yeah,
Yes.
Agreed.
Okay. So, Christy, we know that co-teaching is a really important aspect of inclusive education.
Yeah, it's one of our 9 essential ingredients. Yep.
That's right. And so it means that educators have to work together to create inclusive classrooms. And probably you all know that we've come up with 6 different co-teaching structures or strategies. And today we're focusing on only one of those because it is really our all-time favorite of the 6.
Yeah, and it's probably one of our favorite because we use it all the time. It's just kind of like natural for both of us to use. And it's, I think, Julie, you probably love it because it can increase so much creativity. Not just for the students, but for the co-teachers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you're wondering kind of why you would use One Teach, One Make Multisensory, there's a couple pieces to it. The first is it actually utilizes both adults fully, meaning there's not a moment where one of us is talking and the other is watching that person talk, because both adults are actively engaged in creating access points for students.
And I think what's really interesting about what you just said, Julie, is that, and this is in another podcast where we talk about support as a verb. But when we think about this particular co-teaching model, there's an action being taken often simultaneously by both adults. So I think that's when it gets kind of really interesting, is that we're providing more access point. You could argue we're providing more support. But if you understand that support is a verb, you understand that those adults would both be taking some sort of intentional action.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that. And then, of course, you all know, and probably why you're here for this podcast, is that every classroom contains a range of learners that need very different things at very different times. And why I love One Teach, One Make Multisensory is simultaneously we're providing at least 2 access points. So the range of learners can be being addressed in multiple ways by the 2 adults.
All right, so let's dive into the download, because this is a pretty low prep strategy, and that makes it enticing all by itself, but it's also a great way to plan and make sure that we are building upon the strengths of ourselves as co-teachers. And it's good to have a plan because we want to make sure that there's parity. We want to make sure that both co-teachers feel good about the ideas and the actions. But then again, we can also do it on the fly. So it's like this perfect little strategy.
Okay, I think I'm going to jump right to the strategy, because if people are like, what are we doing in this? I think it's best to sort of describe it first. So,
okay, so what Julie means by that is in the download, there's some key features of this particular co-teaching model in case you're new to it, and then some pro tips, which we can get to or you can read on your own. But again, at inclusiveschooling.com/download 52, you will get the One Teach, One Make Multisensory handout. And there are 2 pages of examples. And this is what Julie's going to dive into now.
okay, So yeah, examples. That's the word I was missing, Christy. So when one person is reading a book out loud, another is not sitting and looking at this person reading a book out loud.
Listening to the book,
Yeah.
enjoying the story.
No. I mean, please enjoy it, but you're also acting out the characters using movements, facial expressions, or with puppets or with props. So you're fully engaged with the lesson. And if I'm a learner in that room, just imagine I can just be hearing it being read aloud. I could be looking at the other teacher who's acting it out, and I'm probably doing both simultaneously, which is really good for my brain development to be able to see and hear both at the same time. Krista, you pick another example so people can kind of get what this strategy looks like in real life.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll pick one that Julie actually really likes, and it'll speak to this notion of needing to do a little bit of planning, but
Mm.
not a lot. So let's say that one adult is conducting a whole class discussion, and the
Mhm.
other adult is running around the classroom, maybe in a plaid game show style jacket, getting students to stand or shout out their answers. So
Mhm.
this could be a lot of fun, engagement, another access point, right? One person's talking, asking questions, another one's running around trying to elicit engagement from students. Well, the planning might be as simple as somebody's got to bring their plaid jacket, right?
Yeah.
But it's also got to be a little bit of planning so that if the person conducting the discussion isn't maybe caught off guard or isn't surprised by this notion of someone running around.
Yeah. It's gotta be consensual.
But I think it also could be on the fly, right? It could be like somebody could notice this is going nowhere. This is boring. This is a dud. Or maybe not even as a boring. It's just like, oh, I got a great idea. So like it's
Mm.
everything in between. Does that make sense?
Yes, if you've ever co-taught before, you have certainly witnessed a lesson that is going nowhere fast, and
It could be your own.
if you got 1, 2, or 3 strategies to jazz it up, but what Christy's saying is you don't wanna do it without consent, so you don't wanna do it without talking to your co-teacher about the strategy prior to it, unless you trust each other implicitly, so it's very possible that you trust each other and you're gonna say, "Hey, Christy, watch this. I'm gonna make this more fun. Ready, go." And I'm just gonna do it, but that takes a lot of trust and a lot of
Well, tell
communication.
them about when you got the ladder, because I think that was a perfect example.
So Christy
Because
and I
I probably was being boring, but I was in my zone.
Zone. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I don't think I did it because I thought we were going nowhere, but I did it
Right.
because it was time to shake it up. We've been talking a lot. So we were in just to set the stage, Christy and I were doing professional development in an auditorium, which is our usual classroom with teachers. And as Christy was talking about the ladder of support, all of a sudden a light bulb went over my head and I went, "Oh my gosh, I saw a humongous ladder behind the stage. So I'm going to pull that out and I'm going to climb up and down the ladder while she's talking about the different rungs of the ladder."
And friends, this was not just a ladder.
It's humongous.
She had to get the superintendent to help her bring it out. Now, keep in mind, my back is to the stage and I'm talking to all these people in the theater, and
Yeah.
slowly nobody's making eye contact with me. No one's even looking at my PowerPoint, listening
Yeah.
to my story, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And I'll look behind me and there's Julie on this humongous ladder.
Yeah. So as Christy's saying, then you're going to go up the ladder. I'm popping up the ladder. When she's saying you're going down the ladder, I'm going down the ladder. And, I think this is a perfect example, Christy. If we didn't have trust,
Yeah.
it would absolutely have pissed you off because what Christy mentioned is she lost their focus for a minute because I was taking their focus for a minute. And I would say it was worth that moment of distraction because then when Christy got into her groove and realized what was happening, she was like, "Oh, yeah, now you're going to go up. Now you're going to go down. Now you're going to go up. Now you're going to go down. You're going to go to the top of the ladder." And so for me, it was fun for me to go up and down the ladder, of course, but it was memorable. And I can't promise you, but I imagine some of those educators remember those two teachers who were climbing up and down a ladder to talk about creating, um,
different levels of support. It
That's
could
right.
have gone, and I remember it. Like, we
Yeah.
we talked all day, and I have no idea what we talked about, but I remember that.
That's right. So it's making learning sticky, it's making learning interesting, it's making it novel, fun, or engaging by utilizing both adult humans and their creative brains. And I think really importantly, Christy and I are getting to this point, which is most of the time you're going to want to have talked to your co teacher about what you're planning to do. And if you have some amazing idea in the moment, you're going to either have to ask for forgiveness or you guys are just going to have to get over it. Is that
Yeah, get over it, because I think too, though, Julia, it's even beyond trust. It's like the longer we're together, the more I can read where it's going. Let's say it would have surprised me or caught me off guard, or something like that. I can imagine if I was a more novice teacher, maybe I would have gotten flustered, and then I
sure?
could have lost my thoughts. But because we're both seasoned teachers, and because we know the concept so well,
Yeah.
and I would think even if I didn't know the concept, I would, to your point about trust, I'd be like, oh, she's trying to show it this way because she has a different way of seeing the world than I do. And that means there's probably some students in here who see the world more like Julie than more like Christy. So it's really
Mm.
important, you know?
Yeah. Right.
And it's important that we have fun too.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, so the one teach one make multisensory. Let's give a couple more examples, Julie, from the handout. You can pick any of them that you want.
Presents a new math concept is what one adult is doing, and the other adult is holding up color-coded visuals or manipulatives to represent those key ideas. And so again, it's like, look over here if this helps you to understand what's being said verbally.
Yeah, and so like I the one I thought was really interesting was like, it doesn't mean that one adult's doing something boring and one adult is doing something creative.
Mm.
But oftentimes, because of what happens in schools, it is like reading aloud, giving instruction, explaining, something like that. But it could also be like, I could be modeling how to plant seeds, and
Mhm.
the other adult is drawing the steps on chart paper. So in that instance, there's not maybe a ton of talking, and students might be also doing the planting of the seeds, but by putting it on the chart paper, plant, water, sunlight, or dig, this deep, one seed this far apart, it kind of holds instead of it all being kind of like gone with the demo. I mean, how many times have you had like a physical therapist or a coach or somebody show you how to use some equipment and you're like, got it. And then you go up to it and you're like, where was their hand? Where were they sitting? So this sort of makes it hold still in my prefrontal cortex.
Yes. Great. So you're going to definitely want this handout. Again, it's One Teach, One Make Multisensory. It's our favorite co teaching strategy and structure. Reason being is it involves both adults really fully and it gives kids more access points all at the same time.
So, Julie, as we wrap up this one, I want to give one pro tip. Do you want to give a key feature, a pro tip, or another example?
You start and I'll figure it out.
Okay, you figure it out. So, again, this download is at inclusiveschooling.com/download 52. And because I love Maria Montessori, I'm going to just remind you that in the columns, you're going to see two columns. One says, while one adult is doing this, the other adult does something else. I would like you to think about that second column could be the environment as a teacher. So it doesn't have to mean that we have to have Julie and Christy. Otherwise, we can't use one teach, one make multisensory. I could think while I do this, the environment can be a third teacher or a second teacher alongside me and provide a smell or a texture or a visual or a sound effect that I don't actually have to also do.
Well, Christy, what I'm going to do is just underscore that idea. So
Okay.
it's like, how do you make teaching multidimensional? And a lot of the examples that we use today is one person verbally explaining something and someone
Mm.
else adding a visual. Okay. So we're like
Okay.
verbal plus visual, good, better, better. Verbal plus visual is better. But verbal plus visual plus smell plus texture plus experience. So you're taking learning and you're making it three dimensional and making it come to life for kids is what you're actually doing, and it makes everything more enjoyable. And what I love about it is it takes so much creativity and fun, and it can be done on the fly, and it can definitely be planned.
Excellent. So that's a highly effective teaching model called One Teach, One Make Multisensory that is one of the key elements of what we call the active ingredients to inclusive education.
Thank you for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe and catch up on past episodes where we share valuable insights, straight talk, and practical steps to challenge outdated special education practices. You can find every episode with the show notes at inclusiveschooling.com/inclusion-podcast to build more inclusive schools together.